Cheers all and welcome back to F1 2021 as we're back with the MyTeam series. We're headed to race 2 of the first season here after picking up some points in Bahrain. We're heading to the track that delayed this entire production, is Imola, one of the more recent additions to the game. So an older school track that F1 hasn't been back to in a long time. The pandemic brought it back and Cody's was able to get it added in later in the season. So that's why we had to kind of take a pause. But here we are on the first qualifying lap into the Tamburello chicane. Find your brake point just kind of near the start of that curbing, and then you have to flick the car left and right. Really important to have good rear end stability on this track. And then the second chicane, you carry a lot of speed in, then brake for the second part of the chicane. Most chicanes around a lot of tracks, you're slower in and then faster out. That one, you're faster in, slower out. Then to Tosa, the hairpin is you set yourself up to run up the hill. Now, only one DRS zone on this track, not a lot of overtaking opportunities, so it's all going to be about running a good strategy and carrying lots of speed when you get to that. But here's Aquaminerale, very tough complex of corners. The back end gets really loose getting on the power coming out of that second right-hander. Now, the highest point on the circuit, the Variante Alta chicane, and we've only got a couple of corners left to go on this one. Just trying to keep it nicely inside the track where it's nice and grippy. We've run a little bit deep there, but you can use that curbing on the normal track limits and not lose too much time and get the power down as early as you can, although it's easy to kind of spin. Open up that DRS and cross line, and as we're one of the first cars out on track, we are provisionally fastest at this point. But as you can see, when we jump out to go for our second run, we've fallen all the way down to 13th on the grid there. So we'll open the DRS, start the next flying lap. Kind of a meandering straight, so you got to kind of try and straight line it to save yourself a couple thousandths here and there, and then carry as much speed as you can. It's not a super hard braking zone into, well, it's called turn 2, but it's basically turn 1, because that little left kink is turn 1. But it's not a heavy braking zone for overtaking during the race. You really got to get that job done before you enter the chicane for the most part. And now it's just all about keeping the car hooked up, slow in, fast out, carry some speed. Now this double left-hander at the kind of the top of this little hill here is tricky to get just right. You got to get the car in, stay within bounds as much as you can. Would have certainly been an invalidation if I was running on strict corner cutting, but for this series I run normal, just because I would be the only one that even has the opportunity to pick up track limits penalties, and I tend to try to not overstep the bounds too much. Normally on a qualifying run, if I go too far out of bounds, I will back off, stay with the honor system as much as I can. I do use a few flashbacks here and there, typically not in qualifying at all, just during the race when the AI does something particularly stupid. Just if they break something, but otherwise typically spins and that sort of thing don't get cut out. But here we are coming out P12 provisionally, starting the final run as there's some cars filtering their way out of the pit lane. We're going to see if we can find some cleaner to slot in. Looks like we've got a McLaren out ahead of us. I believe that is Daniel Ricciardo, who's going rather slowly, but we'll see if he's able to move out of the way for us or if he's going to block. So we did lose about a tenth through turn 1, and here he is. Daniel Ricciardo parking it right on the apex. We make contact with him as we're trying to just go around the outside of him. That does some damage to the wing, and that is going to give him a 5-place grid penalty for impeding us.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who will be fronting the grid. Hamilton, Perez, and Valtteri Bottas. With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then. Welcome once again to the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari. The clue's in the name. This is very much Ferrari home turf, and the locals will be out in force today to support their team in what we hope will be a magnificent spectacle of motorsport. On then to the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. 3.1 miles of track here at Imola, featuring 19 turns, 9 to the right and 10 to the left. Remember that Imola differs from most other Formula One circuits as it's driven anti-clockwise. Let's hope no one forgets that today. The exit from turn 18 will probably be the setup for many of today's overtakes, leading as it does into the longest straight of the circuit and its only DRS zone. With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Bottas, Verstappen, Charles Leclerc and Norris, Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Gasly and Daniel Ricciardo. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Ocon, Vettel, Oldtimer and Stroll, Tsunoda, Raikkonen, Felipe Drugovich and Antonio Giovinazzi, Russell, Latifi, Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
So here we are starting in 13th place. We've got the inside line on the dirty side of the track, technically, as the 5 red lights wait to go out as we crawl away from line, starting on the soft compound of tires. It's a track that we can do a one-stop soft to medium on, but looks like Stroll and Tsunoda have gotten a little bit better launches than us as we come down into turn 1, trying to tiptoe our way through this tight chicane as Stroll's going to come all the way across and block us off. So we've dropped a position now down to 14th. And we have the AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda, who's going to have a little look to the inside, but we're going to keep it covered off as there's a huge train now heading into Tosa. We're going to sneak just up the inside of Lance and use that open door as he didn't defend the inside there, and it's an easy position to take off the AI. So now we're back to where we started with our qualifying nemesis, Daniel Ricciardo, just ahead of us, who cost us the opportunity to improve. Now, one thing that's fairly different compared to the AI is just driving all the league racing. We've had a lot of practice in conserving tires and helping them last a little bit longer. So typically we have some strategies, regardless of car development, available to us that the AI doesn't necessarily have. They're typically going to have to go for 2 stops more often or go onto harder compounds of tires. So while we are going soft onto medium, it's very likely that we will see AI going either for 2 stops or a soft onto hard run. When we come up to the end of the first lap there, it's pretty much as we were, just tucked into the line here. Not really a chance to make a move, although Daniel Ricciardo's making a move on Sebastian Vettel in front, and that's bounced him over the curbing, and ooh, he's gotten loose, and he is sideways and into the gravel. So Danny Rick trying to get by the Aston Martin ahead, makes a mistake, ends up sideways, and luckily we're able to get by him without picking up any kind of damage. And now we're being attacked from behind by Kimi Räikkönen in the Alfa Romeo. We're trying to now bridge this gap that we've left now, having to take avoiding action of the McLaren to get up onto the back of Sebastian Vettel. So we need to push what we can on these soft tires. Another thing that I have noticed in running this series is that we typically are a little slower than the AI at the start of a stint, but once we tend to keep the tires in a better window, and as they start to degrade, we'll start to catch up to them a bit. So on the whole of the stint, we tend to have a fairly similar split, although we can tend to run a little longer and push a little harder at the end than the AI does. But finishing up that second lap, DRS will become enabled, but with the start-finish straight being the only DRS zone, we are going to have to wait basically the full lap. 1.7 seconds off of Sebastian in front of us, 2.7 seconds to Fernando Alonso, who is the next car, or first car in the points, as there's another yellow flag through the Tamburello chicane. That is another car off, as the AI had shown some struggles keeping the car kind of balanced through there. I think if they race side by side, they have a pretty good opportunity to make big mistakes. But we are now 2 full seconds back of Vettel. This 3 laps into this 32 lap race, so we'll see if we can't close up and make some ground. But of course, we got to worry about Kimi Räikkönen behind us as well. 1.0, just right on the border of that DRS range. We tended to be a fair bit slower through Acqua Minerale than most other than the AI cars, but we tended to be a fair bit quicker through the Variante Alta. So it looks like we are just going to get that 1 second margin back up to Kimi Räikkönen, as the detection point is right that line we just crossed there, and he is a 1.1 seconds back when he crosses it. So open up the overtake mode, trying to close up to this group ahead. We're going to jump a few laps further ahead. Lap 8 of 32. We've got yellow flags ahead. We're still right around 2 seconds back of Sebastian Vettel, and that is Valtteri Bottas, the Mercedes driver, out of contention. So that's at least one position closer to the points for us in a race where we haven't necessarily had the pace. We haven't been able to close up to Sebastian. We have gapped Tsunoda and Raikkonen, so we're pretty much driving in a decent, clean bit of air, but the tires seem to be doing decently. We are running that overtake battery fairly low. Not a ton of opportunities to give it big old recharge beans, but it's better than some other tracks. So now we're going to jump ahead. Lap 10 of 32 now as a few cars coming into the pits. Pierre Gasly, Charles Leclerc into the pit lane, so that's going to move us up a couple of positions, up into 9th place overall now, but we're still 2.2 seconds back of Sebastian and holding about 5.5 ahead of Tsunoda. So still kind of as we were pace-wise, just essentially matching Sebastian, although as they get to the end of the stints, like I was saying, we should be able to start to close up to them a little bit as we've kept a little more life in the tires. But we have been pushing fairly hard. You can see the overtake mode, the battery down to about 20 some odd percent. So really utilizing a lot of that energy to try and close up to Sebastian and get in that DRS at least, even if we can't make a move right away. To get right there and have the opportunity to go for a move is really important at this stage of the race, because he's essentially the gatekeeper now to scoring in the points as far as track position goes. We'll have to see how the pit strategies eventually shake out, but we seem to not really have the pace to make up too much ground. And like I was saying in the last video, our pace is definitely flattered.
We've seen a problem at our end. We're looking into it.
Let's see what that is. Looks to be a potential ERS problem. It doesn't look like it's DRS like we had before, as there's a couple more cars in the pits. Going on to the hard tire, you see Hamilton and Verstappen, so going for that one-stop strategy. Felipe.
The issue with our ERS, the issue seems to be fixed, but we will keep monitoring it our end.
Felipe's in the pits. Now you can see in the bottom left there, I no longer have the prompt to enable overtake, so my ERS is not deploying at all, and you'll see how much ground we're going to lose to Sebastian Vettel by not having that extra 160 horsepower, that extra oomph that the electrical system can give you. Now this is going to benefit us, as we do have the opportunity to recharge the battery because we can't use it at all. So, but it is still at least putting battery into it, so we should have a pretty fresh battery by the time we get to it. But it's real unfortunate timing, especially as Sebastian Vettel is likely to be coming in for his pit stop fairly soon. But you can see we've already lost a full 0.8 to a second on this one lap by just not having that extra power available to us. And Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen really closing in on us. There's a few more cars into the pit lane. Looks like Vettel, Ocon, both into the pits. The McLaren of Lando Norris is in, and we finally have it fixed. So enabling that overtake immediately, and we are going to be looking to come in at the end of this lap. Sergio Perez, we've managed to jump as well, so we are in the lead of the race at the moment, but with a very quick Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen coming up behind us on this one. So we are going to burn quite a lot of the battery power just to try and overcut Sebastian Vettel, who came in that one lap earlier. He's going to have those fresher tires to close up the gap. It'll be very tough for us to make up 3 seconds in that lap. We'll see if we decide to stay out or not. I think if we get DRS off of Hamilton, if he gets by us and we stay close enough, it might be worth staying out that extra lap. But see, we're going very wide there through Aqua Minerale. The car just locking up and not slowing down on these old tires. And Hamilton easily through into the Variante Alta this time and is just going to start to stretch away. We have Max Verstappen on the back of us and the other Red Bull of Sergio Perez. So we're kind of in with the lead group right now, but not on pace. It's on strategy at the moment, and we still have to make that pit stop, so we are going to be well behind them by the time we come in. So here we are coming off the final corner, and we are going to dip into the pit lane. That run through Aqua Minerale was really sketchy and really highlighted just how dead the tires were. So now we're going to come in, we're going to make a change for the medium compounded tire that should be able to take us to the end of the race. There's Gasly, Sainz, Norris, Leclerc all going past us, both the Alpines, Ocon and Alonso. And we'll see Sebastian Vettel just blitzing by us now as we trundle to the end of the pit lane, spend almost 30 seconds down on speed and getting on the power hard as we have Nikita Mazepin in the Haas coming up very quickly behind us. We need to make sure to stay out in front of him, otherwise having to overtake him would definitely slow us down. But we've lost about 2 extra seconds to Sebastian Vettel. Now, he's on the hard tire looking to go to the end of the race. We are on the medium tire going to the end of the race, so we should have some extra pace in hand just off of the compound advantage. And I think we will just about be able to keep the tire alive long enough to get to the end of the race with some decent pace. Now, we should be able to close up that 4 seconds. There's still plenty of time to go in the race. 18 laps left in this one, not even at the halfway mark. But it's very likely that we will close the gap. But by the time we're able to actually overtake Vettel, we won't have any tire left to really run away from him and build any kind of a gap. So we will likely have to be fighting with Sebastian the rest of the way for what is just one solitary point. As you can look at the mini-map in the bottom left there, we are the black dot about to cross the start-finish line of the black triangle. You can see the black dot coming through the last 2 corners. That is our teammate Felipe, who is running just right down at the back. So we're going to jump ahead a little bit now. Lap 20 of 32, and we have now closed up to Sebastian Vettel. We are in the DRS range. We've used a fair bit of our battery, but the DRS open, and here we go, sweeping around the outside, headed down through turn 1 into the Tamburello chicane as he slots right back in. We've cleared him completely and on the brakes into Tamburello. This is going to be our first and best opportunity to try and build a gap. The tires aren't that old at this stage, but you can see how much battery we've used just to catch up to him. So we're going to have to try and push on and see if we can build a 1 second gap to Sebastian and get out of that DRS range. But he's been showing good pace on those hard tires throughout this race, and we are also looking ahead to Alonso and Ocon. Maybe we'll have some tire advantage, but 5.6 seconds is quite a long way to make up to catch that group ahead of us. You see setting personal best through the first 2 sectors there, but Sebastian Vettel 0.7 of a second behind us, 0.8. We're going to see if we can just use some of that overtake, try and build a little bit of a gap at the DRS detection line, but it's not going to be enough. He should be crossing that line just within that 1 second margin of us, and we should, as we come down the main straight, see for the first time there him flip open that rear wing and start to close up on us. Now we have enough of a gap on him where that DRS is going to allow him to close, but it won't be enough for him to overtake. You can see that slot in the rear wing as we brake for the Tamburello chicane. So we've managed to maintain a couple of tenths of gap to him as there's some wiggles coming out as getting the power down the back end, trying to slide around. But you can see that flashing red light on the back of our car. We are running out of electrical deployment. That means we are under 10% left in the battery, and the deployment slows down, so you don't get quite as much power on the straights. Goes into a bit of a recharge mode when you're under that 10%, so you do lose a bit of straight line advantage, and of course getting on the throttle, you don't quite have that full 160 extra horsepower available to you. But you can see Sebastian Vettel even closer than he was last lap this time through the Alta chicane. We'll see if we can once again try and hold him off, but he's much closer. He's definitely going to have the DRS down the main straight this time. And it's just going to be a matter of if we've got the battery power to maintain the straight line speed to keep him from coming up behind us. We are running a little bit more wing than the AI does around this track just because it is so twisty. So that does compromise us a little bit in straight line speed even without the DRS. And you can see in the final stage as he gets up close to VMAX just how much ground he's closing. We're defending to the inside, and he is all over the gearbox, not able to get his nose fully down the inside as we made a fairly late commitment to that defensive position. But one more time, we've managed to stay in front of him, and we're only on lap 22 here, so there is quite a long way still to go in this race, where we've got to try and keep him behind us in order to maintain some point scoring. So that is going to be the focus here. Is lap 23 of 32, and we've lost ground to Ocon. It's now 7 seconds up the road, so definitely at a position now where the medium tires are not quite as fast as the hard tires. Big snap of oversteer, getting on the throttle, trying to save it, as now Vettel's going to be right in there, and big lockup into the chicane as we are feeling that extra pressure. We're trying not to use any of that overtake mode, but look at him pull alongside using that extra power. So we're going to actually drop behind him and get the DRS off of him, since there'd be no way if we defended that position and he had DRS down the front straight. There's no way we would be able to keep him behind. So we are going to let him have that position since he had such a good run, and then use the DRS and go right back by him. So only 8 laps left to go in the race, battling for the final points paying position in this one, trying to make it 2 points finishes for this fledgling team to start the career. Bahrain was a great run up to a top 10 finish, but it's going to be much tougher here at Imola, as the variance between the cars makes it a lot tougher. So we're going to jump ahead a couple of laps now. Lap 25 of 32, and there's yellow flags up ahead, and that is Fernando Alonso, one of the Alpines we were hoping to chase out of the session. So we are no longer battling for some points with Vettel. At least one of us will come home with some points. And now Vettel trying to find some gap, looking to go to the inside, goes to the outside, sweeps around with the DRS, and takes P9 now back off of us. So going from 1 point to 2 points, as we've still got 6 laps left to go in this one. And you can see that battery overtake, 8% left. Charging a little bit as we get into the braking zones, but not really getting a whole lot in there. We just need to stay tight to the back end, as those hard tires are definitely in better shape than what these medium tires are capable of doing. And he's stretching out 0.6 of a second as far as the gap goes already. Now we do gain a little bit of an advantage through here with the extra downforce, but just the way they drive this set of corners, Acqua Minerale, you can see we go from 0.55 to 0.73, 0.75, so almost 0.2 lost there. But the ebb and flow of the track, so you can see 0.75 of a second behind, down to a 0.5 second behind, as we run that chicane so much better. And now just trying to close up to the back, using a little bit of that overtake mode, and now tucking right in behind, looking to make once again another move as we just trade this position back and forth between the two of us, battling it out to the end. They're fairly easy passes down the front straight here. The DRS very powerful, and kind of the trade-off of it being the only DRS straight is they've made it a very strong one. So it's pretty easy to get a sure move done on that straight with the DRS. But running a little bit wide through the second chicane there onto the gravel, and that is going to open the door. Sebastian Vettel gets right back through again. You can see just not hooking all the way up to the apex of that second chicane, and getting a little bit of dirt on the tires has also compromised our run out of that corner, but utilizing some of that overtake just to get right back on the gearbox, utilize the slipstream that we have available to us, and try and get that place back as the laps are just ticking down to the end of this one. We managed to stay fairly tight through Acqua Minerale, but now through the Variante Alta, right up on the back. Not even really any space to gain time because we were so close to the back end. So we are trying to save what battery we can under these braking zones, so we have everything we need to deploy down the front straight. We might even be able to make the overtake on this lap without using any of that overtake mode. We are using it though. 15, 13, 12, 10% left, just burning that battery off. Switching it off now as we are down to 6%, 5%. You can see barely using any of it now on the brakes, and we're going to get a couple percent back. It'll jump back up to 11, but when you go full throttle again, you can see that number ticking down and that red light flashing certainly on the back of our car. That time a much better run through that chicane. That's kept Vettel at bay this time through Tosa. And we're just going to try and we need roughly around 25% battery coming out of the final corner in order to have enough battery to deploy pretty much the entire way down the straight. Obviously more is better. Now one thing I wish there was in this game is the ability to switch to a full recharge mode, like in the 2019 game, where you could turn the ERS completely off, and it's something you can do in practice, in the practice modes as well. But in race, you are locked into this medium, only able to click overtake. I think in situations like this, where you have a middle sector that is impossible to overtake in, it would be beneficial to sacrifice some lap time, but being able to not have it burn any of the battery power on a straight through that section, because even without using the overtake button, it is deploying at a reduced amount. Overtake just gives it full power. As you can see, that battery percentage coming all the way down, but we didn't really use a lot of overtake, deciding not to fight that one. Lap 29 of 32 here, so only a few more laps left to go. And once again, trying to stay close. We are starting to feel the scrub of the medium tires. They are struggling a little bit, and you can hear the chirp of the tires every once in a while as there are partial lockups coming into the corners, especially on the rear bit of the car. So just rolling the car into some of these corners now, as opposed to really pushing it. I know I can make up the gap through the final chicane at the top. I can make some time back up, as you can see, all the way down to 0.8 back, and we'll see what that comes down to, just as we are taking a lot of curb through there, and we actually managed to gain about a tenth and a half, but we are now closing back up. Should be right around a half second or so with that better exit when we cross the DRS line, so should have plenty of opportunity to make another move stick on the Aston Martin of Sebastian Vettel in front of us. So DRS flips open now, and utilizing that straight line speed, having a look, tucking into the slipstream, trying to make the move stick without going all the way on the button, but he's defended very well into the corner. We are going to just have to force him to back out, as we left him plenty of space on the apex there, but we were able to pull ahead coming through the corner and able to make that move stick. Only a couple of laps left to go as we run wide once again, but this time not quite so much time lost as we did the last time in the gravel. So that is going to put Sebastian right on our gearbox through this section of the track once again, but he is at least not able to overtake us that time. Little puffs of smoke from the lockups, and you can see the run he's got off of Aqua Minerale there, closing up, having a little bit of a look into the chicane, but thinking better of it. And now we're really starting to lose the front end grip of the car as these tires wear down. It gets harder and harder to get the nose into that change of direction for the chicane, especially this downhill turning zone. Really loads up the front tire, and it's tough to keep it alive. But now you can see Sebastian Vettel in the DRS, and now there's a McLaren coming to play as well. All of our fighting has allowed the McLaren of, I believe that is Lando Norris. We'll have to check what color the T-cam is to see if he's managed to, if it's either him or Ricciardo who's starting to close up to this battle. Only a couple laps left to go, but the rate that he is catching us might put him in the mix of the fight. As a big snap of oversteer coming through the Villeneuve chicane there. But we should be able to stay just close enough to Sebastian through this middle sector in order to have another run at him down the straight. Now we're thinking of just saving battery where we can in order to deploy for one final attack. We're running out of laps in this one. Only a couple of laps left. I believe only 2 now. I think we're on lap 31 of 32. So only one more run down that front straight. And if we can make the move stick, the run to the line is so short out of the final corner that you don't really have to worry about it. So we've only got 13% battery, only a little bit left. We've got the tire wear warning on the bottom right there, saying that those medium tires are starting to go. So we got 22% as overtake on DRS open up now, and now in the slipstream, closing. It is Daniel Ricciardo, 1.9 seconds back of us, as he's going to try and squeeze us to the inside. We're running 2%, 1% battery, almost nothing left. But we are going to hold that position now. We just need to use the overtake to keep him from getting a run on us through any of these corners, and we should be able to maintain this 9th place. But hopping over the curbing, not great for the underside of the car. Definitely tough. And the door's been left a little bit open as he's trying to stick his nose in. We left the space as we ran a little bit wide, but he is not quite going to make the move, and he has dropped right off. He's now 7/10 back. Lewis Hamilton winning the second race of the season, and Max Verstappen taking a fastest lap, making up for his poor showing in Bahrain to start the season, and it should be an opportunity for a championship leader to swap around. We'll have to see what the final classifications are. But Ricciardo on the last lap has attached himself to this train of us and Vettel. But through the final 2 corners, just need to keep it tidy. Take it a little slower than we normally would. The tire grip just completely gone at this stage. Opening up the overtake button for one last time as we shoot across the line to finish in P9 and grab ourselves 2 more points.
The Mercedes team pulled out a fantastic performance today. They should be proud. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
Well, I honestly feel it was down to the driver and car today. I mean, we can talk driver skill all day, but if you don't have a solid team to back that, you're never going to get anywhere. When you hit that sweet spot of having both an excellent driver and an incredible car, that's when you see results like those we witnessed today.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again. And after this round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the Drivers' Table. Lewis Hamilton takes the lead of the Drivers' Championship. Let's focus on the driver of the day, Anthony Davidson. Who do you pick?
There's a few contenders, but George Russell definitely stood out, I think. A really solid drive from him today, and one I'm sure the fans enjoyed.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. Red Bull take over as championship leaders. Meanwhile, Ferrari have improved their position. A strong weekend from them as they fight their way towards the top. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time? Be sure to join us again as we continue to bring you the latest excitement in Formula One.
So we've got a tie at the top of the championship tables. Lewis Hamilton and Sergio Perez. Felipe coming in last car on the lead lap, P16 this weekend. So as a rookie driver, he will continue to hopefully improve over the course of the season, and especially as the car develops. You can see we gained some, luckily gained some research and development points from that electrical problem. But as far as performance index goes, we're just below AlphaTauri, just ahead of Alfa Romeo. So we're still kind of at that bottom group of the car pace-wise, and I'd say we're overperforming and our teammate is underperforming, although strategy is really what's helping us out at this stage, not pure pace at this one. As you can see with the way with it in the opening stint, we really were just kind of hanging on to Vettel, and that Aston Martin its rating on the development chart belies its actual pace. It's not quite that quick, and we are just marginally behind it on pace. So we're seeing where we can spend our R&D points, as only a couple categories have the ability to do multiple developments at this point. We do have some cheaper developments available to us from the practice program, so it looks like we are going to pop in some engine power, some improved gearbox durability, as those grid penalties can come back to can be a bit of a problem, especially in the first season. So you want to try to make sure that it's only the first season that you're having to take a bunch of penalties over the course of the season. But we've got a lot of developments in the bank right now. If we finish those developments, it would actually jump us ahead of both AlphaTauri and Aston Martin up near Alpine. But we'll see if those can come in and be completed properly, and there's no failures. So still can't get any secondary sponsors just yet, but we are going to spend a little bit of cash on some of the driver perks. The quicker we can get these developed, the better. They are very useful, especially the engineware and resource point income ones. Very, very handy, but we're going to basically try and keep those fully stocked up whenever we have the opportunity to improve those. But Felipe Drogovic, overall rating of 64, but one of the quicker pace stats, so we will see if we can continue to improve him on this one as we continue to manage the team. Good high focus rating, which means he's nice and happy as we are spending tons and tons of money. But just on the strength of our own P5, P9, we're sitting inside the top 10 of the championship and have the car in a decent spot. Although I'm sure constructors-wise, we will start to fall off as other teams get their consistent finishes in. Let's go ahead and advance the time and get some of the see which upgrades come in. So streamlined suspension arms, good.
Okay, we've had the new parts come through the fabrication process. We'll have them with us for the next Grand Prix. How do you want us to deal with this one?
All right, so we've got one of our tougher choices. The last episode was an easy, just only benefits. This one we can take we'll have to give a benefit up and but hurt the morale of the staff for some extra development.
The department appreciates it.
But we're going to go ahead and hurt the morale of the staff because the car very much needs to keep improving. We need to keep pushing that development along in order to try to get into contending position as quickly as we possibly can. We've only got one more potential development on the docket. We'll see if that one succeeds or not. And then we'll also get a healthy influx of cash from our weekly resources. So yeah, monocoque structure successful, so no failures this time around. And then we'll get ready to head off to Portugal. So it's another new track. We did race it in the FRS this season as well. So we will see how we can do around there. But thanks for catching on this one. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.